What a wonderful night. I love this night. Thank you, Academy. I love you, Academy. And it's a joy to stand up in praise of one of the most exciting, profound, playful, unique poets that I have ever read. If we put poems in a capsule to outer space to represent us, then Brenda Hillman's poems must be among them. I've written poems about wanting to write poems more like Brenda Hillman's poems. And here is our citation for her award. Brenda Hillman's brilliant poems, linguistically, spatially, politically, emotionally, are some of the most thrilling poems we have. Our IQs and our heart cues rise when we read her. The genius of her language, her images, her wit, and her commitment sparkles seriously in American poetry. Watch one, what of the night? And she gives us the night and gives us our present, intimate, dangerous day. Each line, each poem, each book, extraordinarily fresh and original, is minted alive before our eyes. It is a great pleasure and honor to present the Academy of American Poets Fellowship to Brenda Hillman.
Sharon, thank you. That was extraordinarily beautiful. And thank you to all of the chancellors for this great honor. Thank you for your beautiful readings, my fellow readers tonight. That it's a pleasure to be in this company. It's an incredible evening. When they called a few months ago and said, keep this a secret, I thought, it's something to think about every day when something goes wrong, that something like this happens, and it's a once in a lifetime. So thank you all also for your support of this wonderful institution every time you send in your membership or pay for your ticket. I want to thank my family who has supported my poetry, my daughters here, and my brother and sister-in-law, Brenda Hillman and Susan McNabb, and my beloved Bob Hass, my husband. I want to thank also my publisher, like David. I have had a very faithful editor at Wesleyan, Susanna Tamminen, and everybody at Wesleyan. It's just great to have a publisher like that. When I said to, I ran into Gary in the lobby this morning, and I said, Gary, I'm planning a reading, and I want to make sure, to plan a reading that the chancellors won't think they made a mistake. And he said, well, it's too late now. They're not going to take it back. So anyway, I put together a reading. We had a family funeral just a few hours ago, so I raced over to Long Island. My daughter's grandmother, my first husband's mother, passed away yesterday, and so I planned a reading with some of the space in that. This is the first poem from Practical Water. Partita for Sparrows. We bury the sparrows of Europe with found instruments, their breasts light as an ounce of tea, where we had seen them off the path, their twin speeds of shyness and notched wings near the pawnbroker's house by the canal, in average neighborhoods of the resistors, or in markets of princely delphinium and flax, flying from awnings at unmarked rates to fetch crumbs from our table, half spinning back to clefts of grillwork on external stairs we would descend much later. In rainy day neighborhoods of the resistors, where streets were taken one by one, where consciousness is a stair or a path, we mark their domains with notched sticks of hickory or chestnut or ash, because our cities of princely pallor should not have unmarked graves. Lyric work, flight of arch, death bridge to which patterned being is parallel. They came as if from the margins of a painting, their average hearts half spinning our little hourglass upon the screen. This is from Death Tractates, a much older book. The panel. No, the upper heavens wouldn't do. She couldn't manage stairs. Why not keep her here, just separate it off a little bit? So you thought of the moment of death as a kind of panel or screen behind which she might join the watcher, and the watcher did not change. Phenomena streamed by in circles, and the watcher did not change. But no, that heaven was boring, and besides, what lived on both sides. What lived went back and forth across the panel. This is from Pieces of Air in the Epic. Bob and I were in Berlin for a few months, and it was just after we invaded Iraq, and I was writing poems that were 24 lines long, 4 words per line, and had a lot of air or space between the lines. Wind treaties. Between church bells I held its breath, air coming from half states it has visited, where dread meets ecstasy's skid mark. Allow us mighty and bruised oxygen. And I imagined a black square made of Ariadne thread around the great city, winds coming from corners such that talking would never cease. Talking should never cease. Heads bent over documents allowing distinction, or zhivagoing solitudes, stitches at the edges of dignity. Decades of give it away while these winds worked. Lamps flickering in the stable districts, symbolic weight being added to bodies, walking in ordinary courtship outfits in a park. So I'll take you now to California. I've been working on this book that is part of a tetralogy of the 4 elements, and this is the last book in the tetralogy. It's fire, and the poems are informed by seasonal moments that correspond to odd emotional states that are between other emotional states. In summer, everything is something's twin. Tell your mother's first syllable, the moth, to bring its trigon to the doorframe. The universe is speeding up, electrons swallowed by the rose. You work so hard, too hard, too hard. Humans have made a disaster, but what, sister? But nothing, pencil, tap, tap. Such a short season between dogwood and tiger lily. Sunscreen sinks in between hairs on your arm. Western yew, Taxus brevifolia, requests a canopy. People come here for their bit of joy. They gather in western towns, radicals growing weed in the woods, makers of quilts and clouds, loggers, keepers of the sick with their hounds. They rest on weekends in bars for love without reason or ledger. Castor and Pollux sink in the cougar's cry. In a month or so, the sky will swallow Gemini. Hurry now, for the hive is ill. The cedar branch bows low as the wagon passes, and the earth lies down in the long earth bed. Plenty of accidents come your way, but today you are otherwise. Today you train yourself to be safe, to work as Billy has trained the little horse. This is an autumn poem. Patience swoons in the sword ferns. Deep in the earth a grief had been heard. Right behind that a local mystery. What do you mean by mystery, Mrs.? The parallel series that sink in the mist, tentacles of limestone. Jupiter drops through Pegasus, and huckleberries line up like eyes in the matinee. Deep in the earth, an unprecedented seed. Hearing leans from the words. Early, earth, hearth, all have ears in them. I can hardly bear it, yet I go out. What can't you bear? Which, by the way, also has an ear in it. The tender exactingness, electrons swoon in the sword fern, Polysticum munitum, and after the rain, sexy tips of celadon. Sorry, breathe under the fronds. Womanly shadow, why don't you try? Can't. My love and I are tired and cannot fly. Okay, then, it is noon in the orange you wish for. It is night in the wretched war. A gasp in all creation. A stem pushes up through its prime. And I'm going to read two more poems, and for this one I need audience participation. Bob and I participated in Occupy Cal and various Occupies on the West Coast. I've been doing lots of political activism, and I've decided that there's a moment when you just sort of have to do individual actions of sort of anarchist types. So going to the gas pump now, every time I pump gas, I moan when I put the nozzle in, and then I stop moaning when it's finished pumping. And so I wrote a prose poem about it, and Mark Doty chose it for a Best American volume, so it's just been in that volume. So I want you to practice moaning right now, and I'll show you how I do it, and I won't demonstrate because sometimes I go all the way and put my head down, and but just do a low moan like That's sort of the feel of it. And it can be funny and sad at the same time, because that's the truth. Moaning action at the gas pump. Soon it will be necessary to start a behavior of moaning outdoors when pumping gas. The capital S is a sort of gas nozzle. Pulling up, beginning a low moaning action, pulling a deep choral moan with cracks up through the body, the crude through the cracks of sea and earth, pulling neurotransmitters, glutamate, acetylcholine, and others across chasms in the nervous system into the larynx until the sound acts by itself. So we shred the song to continue, meaning, mourning, moaning, mourning. I am able to complete 34 moans by the time I've filled half the tank. City-states outlawed open whaling because it was not good for democracy, but you will merely be embarrassed even if you drive a hybrid. Please be embarrassed, please. Inside the pump, you can hear a bird, a screech-covered pelican lugged out of the Gulf with 4 million tons of used booms in non-leakable plastic, 13 million tons of liquid in non-leakable plastic, 5 miles up the road. Their 5 has a leak in it, by the way. The moan fans out as you put your head down on the hood of your car. Please moan, though the other drivers are staring. Squeak, there are other animals inside the pump, the great manatee. You've seen it float like a rug that has something wrapped in it among the grasses that will not return. This moan won't be the same mammal, but it is a democracy with no false knowledge. The sounds pushed up to the edge of the painting, globs of oil floating to shores of salt marshes. The broadcaster says globs look like peanut butter, wanting to sound lovable, so we can begin to feel friendly about them. Ever since 3 wars ago, the moan meeting other moans, and you ask how to get over it. Is it like Gilgamesh and Enkidu, David and Absalom, like Isis and Osiris, like Ishmael in history? Is it like Hecuba and her kids, Cassandra who did not drive? Is it like Mary, like Antigone who could barely lift the body to bury it? Probably you don't. You don't. Probably you don't have to get over it. Gary, I am so glad to be sharing this evening with you. You are a great inspiration. I love you, and I love your work. You have just taught us so much. This is the last poem, and it's dedicated to my husband, who was teaching Tolstoy last year. The hour until we see you, when we part, even for an hour, you become the standing on the avenue baffled one, under neon, holding that huge red book about the Capitol. What will you be in the next hour? Bundled to walk through creamy coins from street lamps on sidewalks to your car, past candles reflected in windows, while mineral sirens fade in the don't return. Driving home, past pre-spring plum blossom riot moments of your thought. Those trees rush to rust leaves, each a time hinge with great energy. They can't bear inexactitude. News of revolts in the squares, there and here. The envious have gone to cafes to speak in order to leave things out. Love, literature is in flames. It was meant to be specific. You have driven past these rooms 10,000 times to make your report. Make your report. Never forget how you felt. Thank you.